Rand falls against the US dollar, and Eskom working around the clock to address prepaid electricity crisis. With the news this hour, I'm Ayanda Kunene. The Rand fell almost 2% against the US dollar today, and analysts say it is vulnerable to further weaknesses that could take it to this year's low at R8.49. Investors dumped high-risk assets as debt worries in both the Eurozone and the United States took center stage, with US leaders seen unlikely to reach a deficit-cutting deal to tackle the country's mounting debt. The Rand fell to R8.34, its weakest since October the 4th. The Rand has fallen by 26% against the US dollar this year. The South African National Editors Forum has again warned that the implementation of the Protection of State Information Bill can imprison journalists and members of trade unions if it comes into effect. The National Assembly will vote on the draft law tomorrow after more than a year of deliberations that have failed to ease fears that it will curtail media freedom. Chairperson of SANEF, Mondli Makanya.
Most important of them is the absence of a public interest defense. And that's very critical because in as much as the bill has been narrowed down to national security issues, and it is a much more improved bill, there is still a great danger that that will be used to silence people, to imprison journalists, to imprison even members of trade unions, shop stewards who come into possession of information and pass it on to people.
Meanwhile, Director of the Center for the Study of Democracy, Stephen Friedman, says the bill is more a threat to poor people than to the media.
I think the fact remains that this is a very bad piece of legislation, but it is primarily a threat to poor people, and it is primarily a threat to people who are affected by the security establishment, far more than it is a threat to the media.
Vela Shembe, the cousin of Vimbeni Shembe, the former leader of the Shembe Church's Ebuhleni faction, has told the Durban High Court that Vimbeni told him 11 years ago that he would be the next leader of the church. Vela took the stand today in the court battle for control of the church. His application is being opposed by Vimbeni's son, Mduduzi. The succession battle started after the death of Vimbeni in March this year. Eskom says its technicians are working around the clock to address a backlog created by difficulties in buying prepaid electricity units. The utility says the server in buying centers is functioning very slowly. The problem started last Friday. Eskom spokesperson Hilary Chaffee.
We did actually get the system back to normal this morning, but we then had built up such a backlog over the weekend that the system is now very slow again and struggling to deal with this backlog of all the vendors who sell prepaid electricity have now put through their transactions that they did over the weekend. So we are working very hard to address the backlog and get the system stable again. We really do regret the inconvenience to so many people.